Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're all doing wonderfully on today, the 10th of December, the build-up to the big event, as it were, come the 25th. My name is Matt. I'm going to be guiding you through today's session, which is a continuation of the series, the Corrections Digital Badge series. And the quiz for this is going to be on Friday, hosted by yours truly. But today we're going to be looking at correcting VAT transactions. Right then, if you've been here before, these are the rules. Your microphone is automatically muted, so don't worry. If you need to cough or sneeze, you're not going to interrupt anything that we're doing at all today. So you can also download a handout. We've got a black and white and a colour version. The black and white one is just in case you're a bit like me and you like to print things off and take notes. But both of them contain helpful links to help center articles that will continue your learning and also reinforce the knowledge that you're going to be getting today on VAT corrections, essentially. But not just that, we're joined by the team. So we've got Michael and Abby in the questions today. So if you do have any questions regarding this subject matter, fire it in during the allotted time, which is around about half an hour to 45 minutes. It's going to be on the quicker side, I feel, because once you learn the mechanics of what we're going to be looking at, it's going to be quite self-explanatory. Not just that, I do encourage you to click along if you can. So if you've got demonstration data open, or you can load your company into practice data, that would be recommended. It's always good to practice these things outside of your live data environment, just so you've got the confidence in the process that you're going to be performing. And once you've mastered it in that practice arena, guess what? Take it back to your live data, perform the processes there. After this session is concluded, you are going to receive a recording of it, roughly around about an hour afterwards. So if you do want to focus on what I'm saying to you today, more than encouraged, because you can watch this on repeat, as it were, on demand. Now, it's quite a busy session today, so if the guys don't get around to answering your questions, don't worry, we'll be in touch with you via email afterwards, answering anything that remains unanswered. Now, as I mentioned, this is what we've been covering so far in the Corrections Digital Badge series. So customers and suppliers, bank payments, receipts and transfers, journals, and also VAT transactions and correcting them. As I said, the quiz is going to be with yours truly on Friday, so get ready for that one. As it says there, you've got to attend 3 of any of the 4 topics and get the quiz session in. It is absolutely mandatory for that one. Then I will be sending the badges out to you, which you can display on LinkedIn. Let everybody know that you are now an expert in corrections. Superb. What we're going to be covering today then? Well, firstly, looking at editing a transaction. Then we're going to go into deleting a transaction, and then we're going to have a look at the VAT journals and some manual adjustments and making adjustments on the VAT return, and then we'll point you in the direction of further support and a Q&A as well. Now, you've probably seen this next slide a couple of times in your journey to achieving this badge, and it's all about critical and non-critical fields when you edit a transaction. So these are the 2 things, the main things that we want to consider is what kind of field are we editing? As I say, you would have heard the guys talk about these through the series so far, so I'm not going to dwell on it too much. Critical, when amended, it requires the original transaction to be cancelled and a new one reposted. Non-critical, essentially as it sounds, is non-critical. Amendments can be made with no reversal or cancellation of the original, and the lists are there in front of you as to what is critical and non-critical. And again, this is probably one of those slides that if you haven't already from the previous handout, you may want to pin on your desktop just so that you know what you're going to be editing, so you know what's coming next. First thing we're going to be looking at today, though, is editing a transaction which is not reconciled. So in a non-critical field, when you're doing a non-VAT reconciled transaction and you're performing an edit, the original transaction itself just updates. No further action needed. Nice and easy. A critical field the original transaction updates, and a copy of the original transactions details is posted, as you can see below there. And it also references where the original posting was as well. I think the best thing to do, though, is instead of reading from slides, is to actually show you this in practice. Just like Blue Peter, here's some data I prepared earlier. This company I'm going to be working from is VAT Corrections. Quite a small data set, just so you've got clear visibility of the edits and the deletions that are going to be performed. I trust that you've probably got more transactions than I have in here. So when you are going through your demonstration, take through practice data, practicing it, just be mindful of what you are deleting so you can catch up and see what the actual end result is. But as you see, just 6 transactions for me today. Important fields to note here is obviously the type of transaction that we have, the date, because that's going to be a VAT period, and also we want to have a look at the VAT column over here. So the VAT column tells you if it's been reconciled or not. So if there's an R, it's reconciled. If there's not an R, it's not reconciled. Nice and simple. I'm going to minimize this a wee bit. My system's gone a bit haywire. So if you've got an R in there, it's VAT reconciled, and it will reference what has been actually reconciled and what VAT return it's actually going to be on. If there's an N, it means it hasn't been reconciled. So if we have a look here and we'll do a quick VAT return, we're going to be going in June. I'm just going to focus on June. I'm just going to do a quick return. It's going to pick up what needs to be picked up, and I'm going to reconcile my VAT. When I go back to my transactions, you'll be able to see here, everything has been reconciled. Now, what I want to do is edit a transaction in a non-critical field. Now, if we are doing edit, there's 2 ways to lead to it. You can right click and you've got the edit button here, or at the top, you've got edit again. So I'm going to click on edit, all roads lead to Rome, and this box is going to appear. Now I've picked on a bank receipt here. Now this bank receipt itself, all I'm going to be doing is editing the details. So this column here. Now this is a reconciled transaction. I'm going to click edit. Go to the details section. I'm just going to put in here test. Oop, get my spelling correct. I'll click close, click save. It'll ask me if I want to post the changes. I'll click yes, and nothing's changed whatsoever. Now, because this transaction is actually reconciled, if I wanted to do, I'll demonstrate that again. If I wanted to change something that meant something towards the transaction, i.e. its value, what would happen then is either a reversal or a cancellation of what is there. So if we go back to the slides here, you can see a reconciled transaction here. It will post the details. So let's go back to the program and show you what I mean by that. I'm going to pause my screen a moment here. I'm just having a bit of a technical issue. Bear with me a quick second. I'll be as quick as I possibly can. If you've got any questions in the meantime, ask them away. I'm just going to have to restart my program. I'll not be a moment. I'm going to put myself on mute just while I get that sorted. you for your patience, guys. We're still just trying to work to fix it. I'll be as quick as I can. Excellent. Super. I've managed to fix it for you guys. Superb. So we'll start that again. Again, thank you for your patience during that one. I shall now unpause my screen. And you should be able to see where we are. Superb. So data went a little bit haywire there. Couldn't quite figure it out, but we are back. So as I was saying, editing a transaction, let's start again so there's complete clarity. We're going to be looking at non-reconciled first. So a non-critical field edit and then a critical field edit is what we're going to be looking at. As you can see, the data is now correct where we have our VAT ends for not reconciled, R for reconciled. Let's get straight back into that demonstration. The first thing that we're going to do is with transaction 1 here, it's a bank receipt. As you can see, this is non-reconciled by the N you can see in the column, and all we're going to be doing is editing this transaction either by right-click edit or edit at the top there. And then if we change the details here, again showing you what I showed you earlier, just going to put test in. We click close, save, yes to posting the changes. Nothing has changed but the details. So we click edit again. You can do this as many times as you like, it's not restrictive. We can then take away that test. Click close, click save, jobs are good. Wonderful. But what if it was a critical field, which is where I was branching off to there. So if we look at transaction 2 here, still not reconciled, but we want to change something that means something to that transaction. So I'm going to click edit. And I'm going to select the field that I want to edit. And in this instance, what I'm going to change is just the date. So I'm going to say that this was created in July, for example, rather than June, the original date in which it was created. Now, the reason that this is critical is because it's outside the VAT period. And if I click save, and yes, what's going to happen now, Sage is going to ask me to post these changes, and we'll see a new transaction is published. But this transaction itself is just a cancellation of the original information that was posted for transaction 2. And we can tell this because of the fact that the details it shows us. Cancel, see transaction 2. The original date is here, which was June, but now it's been updated to July, what I've just amended it to. So it's nice and easy. It lets you know just for your audit and the audit purposes. Thank you for bearing with me during that technical issue there. We can move straight back on into what we were doing. Now we're going to be looking at editing a transaction which has been reconciled. So we've sent the VAT return off to HMRC or ROS. What do we do in this instance and what happens in this instance? Well, as you can imagine, with a non-critical field, again, because it's nothing to do with the actual transaction itself, maybe just a reference or a details, the original transaction is just going to update itself, and I'll demonstrate that to you. The other is the critical field. We're going to have a look at that. So this has been sent to the overseers, HMRC or ROS. And when you do a reversing transaction, it's going to do the same again. It's going to post the cancellation, depending on what kind of transaction it is. And a new transaction is going to be created with the updated details. Now, let's demonstrate it rather than talk about it. Go back to my data here, again, using the VAT corrections. What I'm going to pick on first is transaction 3. And this is a reconciled transaction. And all I'm going to do is either click on edit here or right click and edit. And I'm just going to change the details again like I did first time around. And this is just to demonstrate, again, that it has no bearing on the transaction itself because it's a non-critical field. However, if I then change my focus onto transaction 5 here, sales invoice, this is a critical field I'm going to be changing because what I want to change is the amount. Let's just say in this situation, the net wasn't meant to be 1,000, it was meant to be 100. Therefore, the tax wasn't meant to be 200, it was meant to be 20. But this has already been sent off. So let's see what the program does. We right click or click on it at the top. We navigate to the field that we want to change. You'll notice how it's grayed out here. But if we click on edit, it then allows us to edit that amount. And as I said before, just for the purpose of the demonstration, I'm going to make those alterations there. What I'm going to do is click close, click save. Do I want to post these changes? Yes, I do. And you'll see what's happened. So the sales invoice has been cancelled out by a sales credit. So it's like a scales when you look at them, the old Libra symbol, as it were. If you've got 100-gram weight on one side, you cancel it out with 100-gram weight on the other. Same with the sales invoice in this instance. So the sales invoice, which was 1,000, has been cancelled out by a sales credit of 1,000, as has the tax amounts. Then the new reference is here, transaction 9, and this is the correct information, including the correct net and the correct tax. So nothing's been deleted, it's just been cancelled and changed. So balanced out to make it equal, and then the correct transaction automatically posted. Again, nice and simple. And if there are any questions coming through, if you send them through, I know it's been quite quiet for the guys so far. They're both there ready and raring, waiting. Let's go back to the slides. Now, you might be wondering, what happens and how do I notify ROS or HMRC once I have edited that reconciled transaction? Well, it'll appear automatically on your next VAT return. It's going to identify the reversal. It's going to pick up on the date range in which it was posted to, and it's going to appear on the VAT wizard that you're using. And this obviously should be included in your return to report that correction, to notify those that need to be notified of said change. And this is what that looks like. So if I go to my VAT return here, I'm going to post a new one. And I'm going to use a custom date range. I'm going to use June until, let's just say, July. Whatever the date range is for you, obviously select that date range. Before you do any calculations or anything like that at all, it's always advisable to back up, as you've noticed here, top. But this is my date range. When I click calculate on my VAT return, what's going to happen is a box is going to appear, just like magic. And it's going to show you the sales credit, which has been used to cancel out the old sales invoice, and it's got the value there, the tax amount there. So we're now telling HMRC or ROS, we're crediting the previous transaction that was on the previous VAT return off because it was incorrect, whatever the reason may be. Here's the new one, transaction 9. And that's for 100. And obviously the tax amount is 20. Important thing to note on this box, just as a top tip. If you are doing your VAT returns and you have a full list here of transactions, and you click include, it's going to include all of those transactions. You can't be selective at this stage. And if there are transactions in this list that you either don't recognize, if you've forgotten about, or you don't want to be included, you're going to have to investigate them and deal with each transaction individually and correct them. Best way to do that is either print the list or send it to Excel and work through it. Because all there should ever be in this screen is things that you're wanting to include. Corrections, for example. So obviously I'm going to be including these. Now what you can do to check that they've been included, not that you have to, but just in case you're like me and you like to have a quick look, is you can drill down into these boxes here. So if you click on this box, again, they were T1 tax codes. I'm going to double click on T1 and you can see the correction there. So the VAT amount was originally 200, it should be 20. If you wanted to, you could print that list off and send it to Excel. Again, you've got the options. I'm not going to delve too much into the mechanics of the wizard. We've got a separate webinar for that one. Well, there we are. Close. I'm going to close out of this as well. I'm not going to run that VAT return yet. What we're going to do is go back to the slides and we're going to look at deleting a transaction. Now, quite simply, if it's not reconciled, the transaction is going to delete. It's going to show that red line that we all see going across. And there's absolutely no adjustment to your next VAT return because quite obviously it hasn't been reconciled in the first place. So why would you notify HMRC or ROS of a correction when they weren't even aware of a mistake and the mistake hasn't even been submitted? So I'm not going to demo that bit because I think that's quite obvious for you. Now, to delete a reconciled transaction is a different matter. So they can't simply just be deleted and forgotten about. As I've demonstrated there, they can be reversed. And what will happen is the system, the program, will post a reversing transaction. So again, think about the scales in your mind there. If you've got 100 gram weight on the left, you need it on the right as well to cancel it out. And again, keep the note as it's on that slide. It doesn't create a document or adjust any stock like that. That all has to be done manually. We're focused mainly on the VAT return here. So let's go into the demonstration. So in this demonstration, if we pick on, again, transaction 4 here, and what we're going to do is just delete it. This is the non-reconciled. I'll just quickly demonstrate it for you. I said I wasn't going to demo it, but just in case. You press delete, and away it goes, gone. All you'll see is that red line. It's been deleted in the details section. Job's good. But if we go to transaction 3 here, we click delete. We're going to come up with the box again. We're going to click delete to reverse the transaction. It's going to notify us. And there we have it. So now transaction 3 has been reversed for the bank payment. And that bank payment details shows us what it's done. So if you're ever scrolling through your transaction and you see these cancels, see transaction X number, Y number, then it's going to direct you to the original posting. Nice and simple. Then what we'll do is we'll run the VAT return on that one and we'll recalculate it. So again, I pick June until July. Going to click calculate. Now we have the bank payment being sent across. As well as the transactions that we edited before. So same kind of mechanics when you edit and delete. The system will take care of it for you by reversing or posting the opposite. All you've got to do is make sure that you're happy with the end results, essentially. I'm going to include, and then again, you can go into the drill down boxes if necessary, if you want to. What I'll do is I'll show you the next slide just to reinforce that point there. So you will always see it. Sage will always pick it up if it's in the correct date range and it's maintained in the same date range. The system's going to pick it up for you and notify you and ask you include or ignore. Really, there shouldn't be anything that you want to ignore in there. If there is, again, the advice is to go and investigate why you want to ignore it, should that transaction even exist. Now, briefly, let's have a look at VAT cash accounting. I'm not going to do a demonstration for this one, it's a very niche area. But VAT cash accounting, when you're deleting a transaction, it depends on the transaction type. So if the transaction's reconciled, a deletion or an amendment is no longer possible. You'd have to perform a workaround, as it were, which it states on the slide there. Possibilities, unallocate, or delete. But any reversal and or new transactions should always be included in your next return. You should always be able to see them. Still no questions coming in. Hopefully that's a good sign. But there are no questions to be asked. We're covering off all the information. But let's move on to VAT journals. So journals can be posted to impact the VAT return, but it must be a VATable tax code. So not like a T9 or anything, because that's usually what they're posted in. It would have to be something, for example, like a T1. Now, journals posted in sales tax or purchase tax control accounts will be recognised as a VAT value in the correct boxes. And journals posted to any other nominal code will be recognised as a net value. What I would say on this as well is if you have one, speak to your accountant if you wish to amend that return using journals, just so that you're all singing off the same page and you've got the same information about the tax codes, etc. Avoid any kind of confusion moving forward. So just have that conversation if needs be. But let's look at an example, and I'm going to show you the example of sale of an asset. So let's just say this is a car. Now, the journal itself consists of 7 lines, as you can see in front of you on the right-hand side there. And as you can see, there's only 2 lines that are actually affecting the VAT return. And they are both T1s. Bit of a clue there. I gave you the last slide. But all these T9s will not be picked up on the VAT return. So this is what I mean by, if you are going to do a journal, make sure it's going to get actually picked up by the VAT return itself. If we make note of the values as well, so let's say sale of the asset, £8,333.33, and to the tax control account, £1,666.67. You think I would have chose better values for me to pronounce, but there they are. What's it going to look like? Well, in your VAT return boxes, you can see the £1,666.67 is in the VAT due, but that's also going to appear in boxes 3 and boxes 5 because they are total boxes, they are amount boxes, they cannot be adjusted. And the sales value is going to be in box 6 there. In the Republic of Ireland, yours is going to look slightly different, and this is how yours is going to look. Same mechanics, but obviously just a wee bit different information on there for you as well. So the VAT is posted as a journal credit to 2,200 or 2200, and the net is posted as a JC to 4,200, 4200. A popular question that we do get, I'm surprised we haven't had it as of yet, is making adjustments. So when you do calculate your VAT return, if you're required to make adjustments, you can do that. Let's say you get an email from HMRC or us saying, actually, on your return next time, we want you to manually make this adjustment, X, Y, Z, reasons are given. So it could be an error on their part, your part, whatever it could be. You can actually do this before you submit your VAT return. And the way that you would do this, I shall show you. So I'm coming around to do my VAT return again. I've received an email or a letter, whatever it may be, to say that I need to make a manual adjustment. Again, always back up, calculate your VAT. We've got these changes here, I'm going to include them. Not only that, I'm going to make an adjustment. So top left hand corner here, or middle left, should I say, but top left, geographically, you can make your manual adjustments. So you click on this button and it will bring up the VAT manual adjustments box. To make the adjustment itself, all you have to do is click on this pencil icon and that will open a further box for you. Now, the example I gave was HMRC instruction. I'm going to change it by £100 just by tabbing across and 100. You can also put a negative amount on if you just do a minus symbol. I'm going to put 100 on there. Click save. And then close. And that is my adjustment made. Now, what I would do, if you don't have to do this, is you could also click on add an attachment and I would put maybe a scan or a copy of the email on there or the letter, whatever it could potentially be. Now, none of these attachments actually get sent to HMRC or ROS, so don't worry, this is just for your records and your records alone. But again, with it being your records, you might want to have that. Then all that's left to do, essentially, is reconcile your VAT return. And once you've done that, I'm going to make my attachment. I come back to my transactions, everything is now reconciled, minus obviously the journals that have just been published and the cancellations and the deletions. So this is the make adjustments box, what we've just demonstrated there. An edit icon in the adjustment column indicates an adjustment can be entered, which is this one here. You can't do it in the values or the total boxes, obviously. Adjustments can be positive or negative, as you've seen. And also posting an adjustment will create a journal between the VAT liability and the manual adjustments also. And as mentioned, the supporting documents can also be attached to VAT return, but that's just for you. It's not for anybody else. It's not going to get sent anywhere. Superb. I'm just going to give the guys a minute or two to catch up on the questions that have been asked, see if they can dive in. And while they do that, I'm going to guide you to the useful links. So if you need to amend an MTD submission, there's a Help Centre article there. If you need help on correcting any of your tax codes, again, there's a Help Centre article there. And any issues correcting anything to do with postponed VAT, we've got a plethora of Help Centre articles to help you by clicking on that resource link there as well. Not only that, we do have the ability for you to go through the archive of the webinars that we have created over the years. So if you can't find the answer that you want, try and look for it in the webinars section. You can also sign up to the new webinars up and coming. MTD is around the corner and we're running a couple of webinars on that at the moment. The next one is with Abby, and that is all about MTD and what it means. And that is going to be on January the 13th at 11, so get signed up there. We'll also go through the ins and outs of making tax digital for you. But key is to remember that you signed up to the quiz webinar with myself this Friday. Because once your attendance is noted there, we'll be making a list, checking it twice, and sending out your badge, regardless if you've been naughty or nice. There we go. There was my festive segue. Superb. There's actually no questions coming in there. So what I'm going to do is thank you all for your ears and attendance for today. If you could complete the survey, that'd be wonderful. If you do think, oh, I had a question, I've forgotten it, if you're like me, and you forget to ask something, but remember it as soon as you hang up the phone, send it on the survey. We read absolutely every single comment, so your feedback will be valuable on that one. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to end the webinar for us there. Any help, further assistance, please get in touch. If I don't speak to you beforehand, have a wonderful festive period and a very merry new year. Speak soon. Bye for now.